Every sunrise offers a fresh start, a blank canvas upon which to paint the day. For most, this moment passes unexamined, a mere transition between sleep and the demands of life. Yet, it is precisely in these quiet foundational moments that many inadvertently lay the groundwork, not for peace, but for perpetual agitation. You say you seek calm, that inner stillness undisturbed by the world's tumult. You yearn for resilience, for a mind that can weather any storm. But have you truly examined the choices you make before the world has even fully woken? Consider this. You want tranquility, yet you awaken each morning and, without conscious thought, expose yourself to the very forces designed to shatter it. You desire strength, but you begin by inviting weakness, by yielding control over your most precious resource, your initial state of mind. This isn't about avoiding difficulty, it's about preparing yourself to meet it with an unshaken spirit, rather than being swept away by its first gust. The path to enduring calm begins not with grand gestures, but with the subtle, deliberate choices made in the first moments of your day. This wisdom, ancient yet profoundly relevant, demands your attention now, because the quiet battle for your inner peace is often won or lost before your first cup of coffee. You possess the innate capacity for reason, for prohairesis, your faculty of choice, which is the very core of your freedom. Yet, how often do we surrender this ultimate power the moment our eyes open, allowing the external world to dictate our internal landscape? The Stoics understood that true serenity springs not from external calm, but from an internal state of disciplined awareness and deliberate action, especially at the dawn of a new day. To live in agreement with nature, as they advocated, begins by aligning your first conscious acts with your highest values, not with the impulsive pull of modern distractions. Most people spend their lives reacting. Few learn the power of remaining calm, silent, and in control. If something in today's message resonated deeply with you, it's because a stronger version of yourself is trying to emerge. Thousands have already discovered the principles inside the silent power, and many say they wish they had learned them years earlier, plus 5 exclusive bonuses. The silent power reveals timeless Stoic lessons for mastering emotions, building unshakable confidence, commanding respect without speaking, and developing the mental strength that cannot be broken by criticism, rejection, or adversity. The question is simple: will you continue reacting to life, or start mastering it, get instant access through the first pinned comment, and begin your journey toward true self-mastery today? The hidden problem lies in our unconscious surrender of the morning. Most of us, without realizing it, hand over the reins of our mental state to external forces the moment our eyes open. We reach for our phones, instinctively checking notifications, news headlines, or social media feeds. We believe we are simply catching up, preparing for the day, or staying informed. But what we are actually doing is inviting the world's chaos, its emergencies, its opinions, and its anxieties directly into the most impressionable part of our day. This initial passive consumption is not a neutral act. It's a profound act of relinquishing control. Your mind, fresh from sleep, is highly receptive. It is like fertile soil ready to absorb whatever seeds are sown. When you fill it with the latest crisis, the most recent outrage, or the curated anxieties of others, you are effectively programming yourself for a day of reactivity. You set an emotional tone not of your own choosing, but one dictated by algorithms and external events. This is a subtle yet devastating erosion of personal sovereignty. Seneca, the great Stoic philosopher, understood the importance of guarding the mind, particularly against unnecessary disturbances. He knew that true freedom comes from maintaining an inner citadel, impregnable through external assaults. But how can your citadel stand firm if you open its gates to every passing stranger before the sun has even fully risen? This isn't merely about avoiding negativity. It's about actively cultivating an internal environment of calm, a task rendered nearly impossible when the first act of your day is to invite external turbulence. The cost of this unconscious habit is an entire day spent in a state of subtle agitation, constantly seeking a calm that you yourself pushed away at dawn. You compromise your most fundamental Stoic power, the ability to choose your response, to withhold assent from disquieting impressions. By immediately consuming news or social media, you are allowing unfiltered fantasia, raw sensory data, and initial impressions to bypass your rational faculty, instead of pausing to evaluate, asking, is this within my control? Is this truly necessary for my well-being right now? You instinctively absorb, internalize, and react. This habit transforms you from an agent of deliberate choice into a mere receptacle for the world's dictates, making you a slave to externals, a state antithetical to true Stoic freedom. The quiet tyranny of the morning notification steals your psychological autonomy before your conscious mind has even had a chance to assert itself. This leads us directly to a common mistake that keeps so many people trapped in a cycle of mental unrest. The belief that immediate engagement with external information is either necessary or beneficial for productivity. Many equate staying informed with being a responsible, proactive individual, when often it is simply a compulsion. We fear missing out, we fear being unprepared, or we are simply addicted to the dopamine hit of novelty and notification. This mistaken priority dictates that we must plunge headfirst into the stream of global events, social pressures, and digital demands before we have even had a moment to collect ourselves. Consider the implications. By instantly absorbing information about distant conflicts, political disputes, or the curated highlights of others' lives, you are training your mind to prioritize the external over the internal. You are teaching yourself that the urgent matters of the world, most of which are beyond your direct control, are more important than your own mental and emotional well-being. Epictetus taught that we must distinguish between what is within our power and what is not. Our opinions, impulses, desires, and aversions are within our power. External things are not. When you allow the morning to be dictated by external forces, you are actively choosing to focus on what is outside your control, setting yourself up for frustration, anxiety, and a pervasive sense of powerlessness. You drain your mental reserves by reacting to things you cannot change, leaving little energy for the things you can influence, like your own attitude, your work, and your relationships. This isn't merely a bad habit, it's a fundamental misunderstanding of where true power and peace reside. You are sacrificing your inner calm on the altar of manufactured urgency, a sacrifice that offers no real reward. This compulsion to stay informed is often a subtle form of mental fragmentation, pulling your attention in myriad directions before you've even defined your own focus for the day. You become a battleground for countless competing narratives, none of which you control, all of which demand your emotional energy. The Stoics championed unity of purpose, a singular focus on living virtuously. This morning deluge of information directly undermines that, scattering your intentions and diluting your ability to concentrate on what truly matters. Instead of sharpening your mental tools, you dull them with irrelevant noise. True preparedness isn't about knowing every global crisis. It's about cultivating the inner strength to meet any crisis, big or small, with equanimity and reason. This internal resilience is forged in quiet contemplation, not in the frantic consumption of fleeting news cycles. You inadvertently train yourself to be reactive, always on the defensive, against an onslaught of data that, for the most part, you can do absolutely nothing about. This habit promises control, but delivers only the illusion of it, trapping you in a cycle of constant anxiety over circumstances entirely beyond your prohairesis. To counter this pervasive issue, the Stoics offered a powerful yet rarely practiced habit: intentional solitude and premeditation upon waking. Instead of reaching outwards, the practice involves turning inwards, building one's mental and emotional fortress before the day's battles begin. This isn't about ignoring reality, but about preparing your mind to confront it with resilience. One of the most potent aspects of this practice is premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. This isn't a morbid dwelling on negativity, but a proactive mental rehearsal for potential challenges. Imagine starting your day not by reacting to external headlines, but by quietly contemplating what difficulties might arise: a frustrating meeting, an unexpected setback, a critical word. By mentally rehearsing these scenarios and considering how you would respond with Stoic virtue, with patience, reason, and self-control, you begin to inoculate yourself against their emotional sting. When you've already considered the possibility of a difficult colleague and decided how you will choose your response rather than simply reacting, that encounter loses much of its power to disturb your peace. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, famously reminded himself each morning that he would likely encounter busybody, the ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and unsocial. He didn't do this to become cynical, but to prepare himself to meet them with understanding and without anger, knowing that their behavior stemmed from ignorance of good and evil, and that he could not be harmed unless he chose to be. This intentional preparation, this internal fortifying, is a stark contrast to the common modern practice of letting the world dictate our initial emotional state. It transforms you from a fragile leaf blown by the wind into a deeply rooted tree, capable of withstanding any storm. Beyond premeditatio malorum, the Stoics also engaged in other forms of premeditation, reflecting on the impermanence of things, practicing gratitude, and setting intentions for virtuous action. Seneca, in his Letters to Lucilius, speaks of reviewing the events of the previous day, considering what was done well, what could have been improved, and what lessons were learned. This reflective habit, when applied to the coming day, allows you to mentally preload your virtues. You don't just anticipate problems, you anticipate opportunities to act with courage, justice, temperance, and wisdom. This is the essence of building your inner citadel, not just closing the gates to external noise, but actively constructing its walls and reinforcing its foundations with the bedrock of reason. This deliberate mental work transforms your morning from a passive absorption of external stimuli into an active, conscious shaping of your internal world, aligning you with the flow of nature and preparing you for amor fati, to accept and even embrace whatever fate presents, because you have mentally prepared for its possibilities. This is how true resilience is forged, by systematically training your mind to be less reactive and more responsive, anchoring your peace not in the absence of trouble, but in the unshakable certainty of your chosen character. Most people spend their lives reacting. Few learn the power of remaining calm, silent, and in control. If something in today's message resonated deeply with you, it's because a stronger version of yourself is trying to emerge. Thousands have already discovered the principles inside the silent power, and many say they wish they had learned them years earlier, plus 5 exclusive bonuses. The silent power reveals timeless Stoic lessons for mastering emotions, building unshakable confidence, commanding respect without speaking, and developing the mental strength that cannot be broken by criticism, rejection, or adversity. The question is simple: will you continue reacting to life, or start mastering it? Get instant access through the first pinned comment and begin your journey toward true self-mastery today. The profound impact of our morning choices is rooted in a fundamental psychological mechanism, the brain's priming effect, and its heightened susceptibility upon waking. When you first emerge from sleep, your brain waves are often in an alpha or even theta state, a liminal space between conscious and subconscious thought. In this state, your mind is exceptionally open and receptive to suggestion, far less critical than it will be later in the day. The information and emotional tones absorbed during this period bypass many of your conscious filters, directly influencing your mood, focus, and overall mental baseline for the hours that follow. Think of it like setting the operating system for your day. If the first programs you run are news feeds filled with crises, social media feeds designed to trigger comparison or anxiety, or emails demanding immediate attention, you are effectively priming your brain for reactivity, stress, and a scarcity mindset. Your brain floods with cortisol and adrenaline, training it to be hyper-vigilant and constantly seeking external threats or validation. This is further amplified by our inherent negativity bias, where our brains are wired to pay more attention to and remember more vividly negative stimuli. News outlets, understanding this, often highlight conflict and problems, creating a potent cocktail that, when consumed first thing in the morning, ensures your day begins in a state of unease. The Stoics understood that our initial impressions, our fantasiae, hold immense power. They taught us to withhold immediate assent, to pause and evaluate these impressions before letting them dictate our emotions or actions. Yet, in our modern world, we often bypass this critical step, allowing the unfiltered deluge of external information to seize control of our psychological state before we've even fully awakened. Physiologically, this morning onslaught of information creates a cascade. Your amygdala, the brain's emotional core, becomes hyperactive. Your prefrontal cortex, responsible for rational thought and decision-making, struggles to come fully online amidst the perceived urgency. This puts your body in a subtle state of fight or flight before you've even left your bed. You are literally training your neural pathways to respond to external stimuli with anxiety and urgency, making it harder to access calm and reason later in the day when genuine challenges arise. The Stoic emphasis on assent, katathesis, becomes even more critical in this light. In our half-waking state, we automatically give assent to these impressions without scrutiny, essentially agreeing to their emotional charge. This is not a conscious choice, but an automatic reflex programmed by habit and the very design of modern media. Guarding your mind in these vulnerable moments is not just a philosophical ideal, it's a practical imperative for maintaining physiological and psychological equilibrium, a profound act of self-care and self-governance. By failing to do so, you compromise your ability to exercise rational judgment and embody virtue throughout your entire day. To illustrate the power of conscious morning choices, consider the life of Marcus Aurelius, a Roman emperor who ruled for 2 decades, often amidst plague, war, and political intrigue. He was arguably the most powerful man in the world, yet he dedicated his mornings not to state affairs or urgent dispatches, but to philosophical reflection. His personal journal, now known as Meditations, reveals a profound commitment to self-mastery and internal cultivation, particularly during the crucial first hours of his day. Imagine the pressures he faced: the weight of an empire, the responsibility for millions, the constant demands of generals, senators, and petitioners. Most would assume such a leader needed to be immediately plugged into every crisis. Yet Marcus did the opposite. He would rise, and before engaging with the external world, he would turn inward. He would write, not for publication, but to clarify his own thoughts, to remind himself of Stoic principles, to prepare his mind for the day's inevitable challenges. He'd reflect on the ephemeral nature of power, the unreliability of others, the importance of virtue, and the need for equanimity. This wasn't a luxury, it was his essential armor. His ability to remain calm amidst chaos, to make rational decisions under immense pressure, and to lead with integrity in turbulent times was not accidental. It was the direct result of this disciplined, internal morning ritual. He consciously chose to fortify his mind, to set his own emotional and intellectual agenda before the world could impose its own. His example stands as a powerful testament. If an emperor with the fate of an empire on his shoulders could prioritize inner work over immediate external engagement, then surely we too can reclaim our mornings and cultivate our own inner peace. His mornings were a deliberate cultivation of eudaimonia, not as fleeting happiness, but as deep human flourishing, a state achieved through virtuous action and rational living. He would remind himself of the interconnectedness of all humanity, viewing others not as obstacles but as fellow rational beings, even when their actions were mistaken. He would reflect on the brevity of life, spurring himself to live each day with purpose and integrity, free from complaint or attachment to external outcomes. He reminded himself of the ultimate indifference of externals, repeating the core Stoic doctrine that only his judgments, his character, and his actions were truly his own. This practice of writing was not merely introspection. It was active self-correction, a daily recommitment to his principles, ensuring that his prohairesis remained aligned with reason and virtue. His unwavering resolve, his capacity for forgiveness, and his steadfastness in the face of immense pressure were not inherent traits, but cultivated disciplines, honed each morning in quiet contemplation, demonstrating that even in the most demanding roles, internal mastery must precede external effectiveness. Now it's time for a practical step, an immediate application you can implement starting tomorrow. This isn't merely about understanding a concept, it's about transforming it into action. Your exercise is what I call the morning hour of silence. For the first 60 minutes after you wake up, commit to an absolute digital fast. No phone, no news, no emails, no social media. Resist the impulse to reach for your device. Instead, dedicate this precious hour to intentional internal activities. This could involve silent reflection, simply sitting with your thoughts, observing them without judgment. It could be journaling, where you write down your intentions for the day, express gratitude, or process any lingering thoughts from the night. You might choose to read from a Stoic text, allowing the wisdom of Marcus Aurelius or Seneca to ground you. Perhaps a short period of mindful breathing, bringing full awareness to your breath and body. The key is to direct your attention inward and to engage in activities that cultivate calm and clarity, rather than reacting to external stimuli. Start small if 60 minutes feels daunting. Even 15 or 30 minutes can make a significant difference. The goal is not to do nothing, but to intentionally choose what does enter your mind and shape your initial state. By consistently practicing this morning hour of silence, you are actively reclaiming your autonomy, asserting your control over your inner world, and creating a solid foundation for a day lived with greater purpose and tranquility. Observe how this simple, yet powerful shift alters your emotional landscape and your ability to navigate the day's challenges with composure. During this hour, consider prompts like, what virtue will I focus on today? What challenges might arise, and how will I respond with reason and patience? What is one thing I am deeply grateful for, regardless of circumstance? You might engage in a body scan meditation, bringing awareness to each part of your body, grounding yourself in the present moment. Or perhaps simply sit and listen to the sounds around you without judgment, letting your mind settle. This isn't about rigid rules, but about conscious, deliberate engagement with your inner landscape. It's about setting an internal compass for the day, aligning your values and intentions before the world has a chance to scramble them. This deliberate cultivation of inner peace and rational thought is a daily act of self-sovereignty, demonstrating that you are the master of your mind, not its slave. This consistent practice trains your proeresis to exert itself, reinforcing the neural pathways for calm, focus, and resilience, gradually transforming your default state from reactive to reflective. By embracing these principles, you begin a profound identity transformation. You are no longer merely a passive recipient of life's daily barrage, swept along by every tide of information and external demand. Instead, you evolve into the conscious architect of your inner world, the sovereign of your own mental kingdom. This isn't just about adopting a new habit. It's about fundamentally reshaping who you are and how you engage with existence. You move from someone who seeks calm from the outside, desperately trying to find quiet moments in a noisy world, to someone who generates calm from within. You become a person whose inner peace is not dependent on external circumstances, but is a self-sustaining source of strength. This transformation means you are no longer defined by your reactions to life, but by your intentional responses. You stop being a collection of reflexes and start becoming a deliberate, mindful agent. When you master your mornings, you master yourself. You demonstrate to yourself that you possess the discipline and the wisdom to choose your mental state, regardless of what the world throws at you. This is the true meaning of Stoic self-mastery, an unshakable confidence in your ability to maintain equanimity, to act with reason, and to find tranquility in any circumstance. It's a journey from being a leaf buffeted by the wind to becoming the wind itself, directing your own course. What is one specific external input you will consciously remove from your morning routine starting tomorrow? Share your commitment in the comments below, and if this message resonated, like this video and subscribe for more timeless wisdom. Most people spend their lives reacting. Few learn the power of remaining calm, silent, and in control. If something in today's message resonated deeply with you, it's because a stronger version of yourself is trying to emerge. Thousands have already discovered the principles inside the silent power, and many say they wish they had learned them years earlier. Plus 5 exclusive bonuses. The silent power reveals timeless Stoic lessons for mastering emotions, building unshakable confidence, commanding respect without speaking, and developing the mental strength that cannot be broken by criticism, rejection, or adversity. The question is simple: will you continue reacting to life, or start mastering it? Get instant access through the first pinned comment and begin your journey toward true self-mastery today.